Welcome to Final Resonance TV and my new video series called How to Play the Guitar 101. So what do you start with? What's the first thing you do when you want to learn how to play guitar? The first thing you start with is a great guitar. Seems pretty obvious, right? You want a great guitar and a great amp, or if it's an acoustic, just a great acoustic. But for all you folks out there that have never bought a guitar, I'm going to use a phrase that you should remember, and that is when you go in to get a guitar from Guitar Center or wherever you get it from, you want to tell the salesperson that you want it to play easy. Play easy. And that's the simplest thing you can tell them. And they know what that means, and you'll find out what it means. It means that it's going to make learning to play the guitar a lot simpler and less painful than it has to be. So when I was younger, there just wasn't guitars like this guitar right here. This is a JS32 Randy Rhoads import guitar. This guitar only costs $250, and it looks like, plays like, and sounds like a $1,000 guitar or more, actually. The only difference between this and a really high-end guitar is the materials, the woods that it's made out of, and some of the electronic components. You know, but as far as playability goes, you can get it right here for $250. Amazing. When I was younger, they didn't have that. They just didn't have it. My first guitar was actually this Ibanez Roadstar, I should say, from 1983. And it was very expensive to buy that for a kid who you didn't know whether he was going to stick with it or not, which I did for over 30 years now, and ended up selling guitars and myself for years. So I've been in retail, you know, over the years a lot, so I know all about the insides of, you know, guitar stores and guitar sales. So anyway, going back to this great guitar, get started. There's some other brands besides Jackson, although I love Jackson, and Charvel. They make a lot of guitars in this price level. This is a $250 guitar, but they have some, you know, anywhere from $250 all the way up to $500 that are great guitars, that are import guitars. Just depends on what you want. There's also some stuff made by Music Man, guitars made by Music Man called, well, they're called the Sterling line of Music Man guitars. There's one called the Axis that is shaped like one of Eddie Van Halen's early guitars that he did with them, and it's $300 around there, and it plays fantastic, has a great neck on it. So those are the two that I can think of right off that are just awesome. The Jackson lines and the Sterling by Music Man lines are great import guitars that have just blown me away when I've gone into the stores and tried them myself. All right, so the next thing you got to have is a great amp. You can get practice amps these days, super practice amps, like the one I have, the THRX. It has effects built in, distortion, you name it. And you can get the Cube series of amps from Roland that do all the same things as well. There's a bunch of different amp lines. There's the Fender Champ that's been around. Actually, it's a Super Champ that's been around for a long time that now has effects and models in it and things. So you could get that as well. So those are my tips. Great guitar, great amp to start with. It'll make learning the guitar so much easier and so much more of a pleasure for you. So do that, and then let's get on with the first lesson. Let me add one more thing before we go, and that is that I would recommend on any guitar to start with, you get a stop tailpiece, not a tremolo bar. It's just a complexity that, you know, anybody who's starting out doesn't really need. And unless you're just dead set on having a tremolo bar and learning how that, you know, how to fix it and how to make it work, then I would go with stop tailpiece. But if you are, you know, mechanically inclined and you really want one, you can go on YouTube, of course, and find all kinds of information about how to set them up and adjust them and stuff. So that's just a tip. But if you're, you know, buying this for a son or daughter who's pretty young, say, you know, 12 to 16, 12 to 18 maybe, I would go with stop tailpiece.